The envelope had been sitting on the top shelf of my closet for 28 years. Every time my wife, Emily, and I moved to a new house, it came with us. It survived cardboard boxes, 2 old pickup trucks, 1 leaky attic, and more spring cleanings than I could count. Across the front, in my father's neat handwriting, were 7 words: "Open after you become a father." That was it. No explanation. No date. Just those words. Lord knows I'd been tempted to open it 100 times, especially after Dad passed away. But I never did. Promise was a promise. Then, on a chilly October morning, everything changed. Emily looked up from the hospital bed, tears in her eyes, and smiled. "We've got a son." The nurse gently placed the tiny bundle in my arms. I'll tell you what, the moment I looked into that little boy's face, the whole world slowed down. And suddenly, I knew it was finally time to open the envelope. 3 days later, we brought little Noah home. The house smelled like fresh coffee, baby powder, and the chicken noodle soup Emily's mom had left on the stove. Friends stopped by with casseroles. Neighbors waved from their porches. Folks around here still do that. Life felt wonderfully ordinary. That evening, after Emily and Noah had fallen asleep, I walked quietly into our bedroom closet. The envelope was exactly where I'd left it. A little faded, corner spent, but still sealed. I held it in my hands for a long moment. Felt strangely heavy. Not because of the paper, because of the years. Dad had written it before he died of a heart attack when I was 24. Back then, I thought I understood him. Standing there at 52, with a newborn son asleep down the hall, I realized I hadn't understood him at all. Dad wasn't much of a talker. He believed actions carried more weight than words. He fixed broken fences before sunrise, never missed a church service, and every Saturday morning, he'd take me fishing at Miller Lake. We didn't say much. We didn't have to. Looking back, I wish I'd asked him more questions. About growing up, about Grandpa, about why he worked so hard. Instead, I figured there'd always be another Saturday. Funny how life works. You think you've got all the time in the world, until one day you don't. I ran my thumb across the envelope. The handwriting looked as steady as I remembered. Strong, patient, comforting, almost like Dad was standing beside me again. I carried the envelope to the kitchen table. The same oak table Dad had built for Emily and me as a wedding gift. Outside, autumn leaves drifted across the yard. Somewhere in the distance, a train whistle echoed through town. Everything felt peaceful, almost too peaceful. I poured myself a cup of coffee, took a deep breath, then carefully broke the seal. Inside was a folded letter, and something else. A small brass key. No note explaining it, just the key, and a single handwritten page waiting to be read. My heart started pounding, because I had a feeling this wasn't just a letter. It was the beginning of a conversation my father had waited nearly 30 years to finish. For a moment, I couldn't bring myself to unfold the letter. The paper had yellowed with age, and the creases looked like they had been opened and folded more than once before Dad finally sealed it. I took a slow sip of coffee. Then I began reading. So, if you're reading this, congratulations. Somewhere nearby, there's a little one who already thinks you're the strongest man in the world. A lump formed in my throat. You won't feel ready. Truth be told, no father ever does. I smiled. Dad had nailed it. Just 2 nights earlier, I'd been terrified to hold Noah without the nurse helping me. You'll make mistakes. Lord knows I did. But if you love that child every single day, you'll already be doing better than you think. I stopped for a second. Those words hit me right between the eyes. I kept reading. There were plenty of days I worried I wasn't enough. The bills stacked up. The truck broke down at the worst possible time. Some winters I wasn't sure we'd keep the lights on. I blinked. Dad had never let me see any of that. To me, he always seemed steady, unshakable. I didn't hide those worries because I was brave. I hid them because a little boy deserves to sleep without carrying his father's burdens. I looked toward the hallway where Noah was sleeping. For the first time, I understood. Being a father wasn't about pretending life was perfect. It was about making sure your child always felt safe, even when you were scared yourself. "I'll be darned," I whispered. "I finally get it." Near the middle of the letter, Dad's handwriting became slightly uneven. "Son, one day you'll lose your temper. You'll say something you wish you could take back. When that happens, apologize. Your child doesn't need a perfect father. He needs an honest one." Those words stayed with me. Growing up, Dad had apologized exactly twice. I remembered both times, not because they happened often, but because they mattered. Teach him to shake hands firmly. Teach him to tell the truth, even when it costs him. Take him fishing. Show up to his ball games. And never let him wonder whether you love him. A tear rolled down my cheek before I could wipe it away. At the bottom of the page, Dad finally mentioned the brass key. "By now, you've probably found the key." I picked it up again. It was old, worn smooth around the edges. "That key opens the toolbox in my workshop. Inside, you'll find something I couldn't explain while I was alive. I wasn't ready then. Maybe you are now." I frowned. Dad's workshop. Nobody had opened that old toolbox since we cleaned out the garage after his funeral 28 years ago. I had almost donated it. Something told me not to. Now I knew why. The letter ended with one final sentence. "Being a father isn't the greatest thing you'll ever do, son. It's the greatest person you'll ever become." I folded the letter carefully, picked up the brass key, and before the sun came up the next morning, I was driving to my childhood home. The old farmhouse looked smaller than I remembered. The white paint had faded, and the porch sagged a little more than it used to, but it still felt like home. Mrs. Henderson, our next-door neighbor for nearly 40 years, was sweeping her front steps when she spotted me. "Well, I'll be," she called with a smile. "Tommy Carter. Been a long time." I tipped my cap. "Sure has." She glanced toward the garage. "Your dad would have been tickled pink knowing you've got a little boy now." I smiled. "How'd you hear that so fast?" She laughed. "Honey, news travels quicker than the internet around here." That sounded just like Willow Ridge. Small towns have a way of keeping folks connected. I unlocked the garage door. Dust floated through the morning sunlight. Everything was just as Dad had left it. His workbench, his old radio, the smell of cedar and machine oil. For a second, it felt like he'd walk through the door and say, "Grab me that wrench, would ya?" Instead, only silence answered. The red toolbox sat beneath the workbench. Its paint was chipped, and the metal handle had grown dull with age. I slipped the brass key into the lock. Click. It opened on the first try. Inside weren't expensive watches or stacks of cash. There was an old baseball glove, a fishing lure, a faded Polaroid of Dad carrying me on his shoulders at the county fair, and beneath them, a worn leather journal. Taped to the cover was a note. "Tommy, if you're reading this, you've already learned the lesson I couldn't teach with words." I opened the journal. Every page held short entries. Not about work, not about money, about me. Today, Tommy caught his first fish. He cried after striking out, but he got back up. He hugged me for no reason tonight. I hope he never outgrows that. My vision blurred. Dad had noticed everything, even when I thought he wasn't paying attention. Near the final pages, I found one last entry. It was written only weeks before he died. "If life is kind, someday my son will sit where I'm sitting now, wondering if he's good enough to raise a child." A lump formed in my throat. Here's the truth. The fact that you're worried tells me you're already on the right path. Good fathers don't have all the answers. They just keep showing up. I closed the journal and looked around the workshop. Suddenly, I understood my father's greatest gift. It wasn't the house. It wasn't the toolbox. It wasn't even the letter. It was his example. He'd spent a lifetime teaching me what mattered, one ordinary day at a time. That evening, I sat on my back porch with Noah asleep in my arms. The sunset painted the sky shades of gold and orange. Emily came outside and rested her head on my shoulder. "You've been quiet today," she said. I smiled. "I've been listening." "To what?" I looked down at my son. "To my dad." "Not with my ears. with my heart. I kissed Noah's forehead and whispered, "I don't know what kind of man you'll become, buddy, but I promise you'll never have to wonder if your old man loved you." The breeze rustled the maple trees. For just a moment, it felt as though Dad was sitting beside me, smiling without saying a word. Some letters aren't meant to change your past. They're meant to shape your future. And tucked inside one simple envelope were the words that turned a nervous new father into the kind of dad he'd always hoped to be.